Fuck Matt Canada. Hello and welcome to Monday Mayhem. It is 6:41 in the goddamn fucking morning. It is way too early to be doing this shit. But as always, we're going to start off with what I got wrong and what I got right.
I'm stupid. You're smart. I was wrong. You were right. You're the best. I'm the worst. You're very good looking. I'm not attractive.
All right. As long as you're willing to admit that.
I stuffed all my hair up under this hat because I got some major bedhead going on and I didn't feel like taking a shower just yet. I just got some cleaning up to do and shit. Before I do that, just peek into the regular life. It fucking snowed here in Canada. So that snow that was in Colorado that everyone was freaking out about, it made its way up here. A little bit more normal for us. It's luckily not the kind that sticks to the ground. So we'll be fine. But hey, got to get that weather talk in on the Fantasy Football Podcast. Am I right? So starting with what I got wrong, the big one for me this week, Carolina Houston turned into like a weird defensive matchup. I saw that going more as an offensive shootout. I had a couple shares of CJ Stroud going, and that kind of fucked me over in a few leagues, especially my main league where I'm probably going to drop to 2-6 now, which is super annoying because I have it written down here, actually, 91-69 as of last week across all 19 of my leagues on Sleeper and on Yahoo. But of course, none of that really matters when it's like your main home league with all your friends and, you know, like other experts and stuff that you brought in and where you talk the most shit. When you're losing in one of those leagues, it feels worse than losing in like 7 or 8 of these other Jamoke leagues. Not that they're Jamoke leagues, I shouldn't say that. But maybe I definitely took on too much this year, I feel like. So may have to parse out a few leagues next year. But you know, some of the redraft stuff I did was experimental. Like I did a vampire league, I did a guillotine league. Those are all fine and dandy. I don't know that they're really my speed or my jam. Those were probably one-time things. So those will go away next year, just kind of on their own probably. And then like there was a random redraft league I joined kind of last minute just because I was itching a draft. So that's maybe a piece of advice is if you're itching a draft, you know, just do a couple mock drafts instead of joining up to another league. But getting away from Carolina, Houston, Adam Thielen was still great. That's on my I was right list. But you know, the rest of the matchup, like I said, it wasn't as high scoring as I thought it would be. It turned into more of a defensive matchup, ended up being a final score of like 15-13 for Carolina in Bryce Young's first NFL win. CJ Stroud, you know, had a decent game, but he really saved you just because he got the one rushing touchdown. Otherwise, it would have been a true dud game. So yeah, that sucked. My other one was the Commanders fade. I kind of was fading the Manders aside from Terry McLaurin, really. I was fine with, but I was kind of avoiding, you know, like most fantasy experts or analysts, which I am neither. If you think I'm an expert or an analyst, you haven't been watching the show long enough. I'm a guy in Canada. I smoke and I know things. That's what I do. And I tell dumb jokes, and hopefully you appreciate some of them here and there. But getting back to it, I had the Commanders as a fade. Besides, I really liked Terry McLaurin because the Eagles, the one way you're going to get them is through the air. I did have Logan Thomas as one of my primary tight end streaming options. He was widely available on waivers, at least in the leagues that I was in, that I am in. So, he hit. That was nice. Sam Howell was really my main concern, the most sacked quarterback in the NFL going up against that Eagles front. But I think, they kind of knew that, prepared for it, and played really well. Even though they lost, it was only by a touchdown in a high-scoring game, 38-31 for the Eagles. I was dumb to fade the rest of the Manders there. So, I kind of had Sam Howell as a fade. I had Brian Robinson as a bit of a fade. He ended up being okay, not great, but not awful. So yeah, that was one I can just admit I was wrong. And again, Jahan Dotson is kind of proof of how reactionary NFL fandom has become. It's not even just, NFL Twitter and social media. It's definitely seeping in, I feel like, to the real life culture of what have you done for me lately? And I know the NFL has always been that type of league, but it just feels like to a certain degree that process has been accelerated where we're wanting to declare guys as, busts, like half a season into their second year on a team with like a quarterback who's not like an established veteran or anything. It's Sam Howell, for fuck's sakes. So yeah, maybe we just have to be more patient, which is really hard to do, especially in the NFL and fantasy football. I get it. But if you were a true believer in Jahan Dotson in the preseason, which I wasn't, I'm not saying that I was pounding the table for Jahan Dotson. In fact, I have almost no shares of him. I didn't like the draft capital. I thought he was going a little too high for my taste. He was kind of starting to creep up to like the 7th, 8th round. And it was like between Jahan Dotson and Tyler Lockett, give me Tyler Lockett all day long. So, and, there were other guys too that were going, even George Pickens and, some of the rookies like Addison, Puka Nacua ended up going much, much later. Adam Thielen was a guy I was heavily targeting. So there were lots of other wide receivers I was interested in. So this is not me standing on the hill of a Jahan Dotson take that I had in the offseason. But if you were standing on that hill, if Jahan Dotson was your guy, then no, you should not have dropped him. So this is more speaking to the overall game plan, skill, patience, managerial experience, whatever you want to call it. Being a fantasy football manager is often, you know when to hold them, you know when to fold them. But there's a bench for a reason. So no, you should not have just dropped Jahan Dotson. If you were a true believer, you should have just kept him on the bench until he had the explosive game. And now you have an opportunity to maybe get him into the lineup. It does coincide, it seems like, with Curtis Samuel declining, whether it's due to health or, him being Curtis Samuel. If he gets relegated, then Jahan Dotson's role will continue to grow, and he could end up being a really good back half wide receiver. JSN's another one, caught a touchdown, is starting to emerge more and more in the offense. Surprisingly, it's not at the expense of Tyler Lockett. In fact, it's been because I think DK Metcalf is still banged up, but there's just room in the offense for 3 wide receivers. He'll have his weeks. But again, it's like sometimes the expectations of fantasy football gets in the way of real life football. There was never a point where I really believed that JSN was just going to walk into, 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Like, especially when you already had pre-established wide receivers like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on the roster. So anyways, all of that to say that, I faded Jahan Dotson just like the rest of the fantasy community. But again, if I had been a true believer, I would not have been able to drop him. I would have just, I'd have been eating it, but I would have kept him on the bench, hoping that the breakout happens. And yeah, it would be now looking to stream him again, or potentially trade him off this huge game. The big one for me, this is just like fucking up my whole season, to be honest, in several leagues.
Pain.
Najee Harris and this fucking Steelers offense under Matt Canada. It's funny because like in the preseason they looked decent, and I know it's the preseason, I get it, but when you have such a young team and a young offensive line, it was more about just the way they were playing, the way they were opening up holes for Najee. I thought maybe we were going to get back to more of a power football style of running and play. But unfortunately, it just really hasn't worked out that way with Matt Canada running the show. We're running at least I haven't looked into the actual numbers. I'm, again, not super stat cruncher guy, but we are playing an absurd amount of our snaps out of shotgun. That's obvious to just any person watching the game of football. I don't know what it is about Matt Canada. He just fucking hates I formation. My guy and we are built for it is the worst part. Our team is 1000% built for power football. We've got Connor Hayward, brother of Cameron Hayward, is like a running back tight end crossover. He's our fullback. And we've got that huge monster tight end that they drafted. Apologies, I'm forgetting his name. I think it's Darnell Washington. Dude is just massive. Absolute road grading, run blocking tight end type. You set them up in a power offense, I formation, and just run power O and stretch, outside zone stretch all day. Put the quarterback under center. I'm so sick of watching Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky try to run this trash ass pro style offense that they installed for late stage Ben Roethlisberger when he couldn't really push it down the field anymore, and they were trying to give him a bunch of bullshit outlet passes. This offense sucks so fucking bad. And as a Steelers fan especially, it hurts my soul because power running has always been our thing. Jerome Bettis was not the fastest guy in the world, but he crushed because of the way that we ran our power offense back in those days. And we need to bring that back in the worst kind of way. What we need is a lot of I formation, and then weak side and strong side offset, basically where it's the fullback, you put him just on either side, but Najee just, and why the fuck, even on the one play where I saw them go under center, they had Najee 7 yards in the backfield. What the fuck is going on? This, I understand that, he may not be the most, have the craziest burst or nothing, but there's no reason to have this guy, trying to sprint 5 yards before he even reaches the line of scrimmage. Obviously you're just setting him up to fail in that situation. So just, give me a traditional power offense, even some split back. Let's see some split back with Najee and Jaylen Warren. But again, keep the quarterback under center, keep the running backs closer to the line of scrimmage. I'm so tired of Matt Canada's bullshit offense. Tired of arguing about whether or not he called a good game. He can't call a good game because the whole offense is broken and terrible. You don't go into a game with a shit ass offense like that and then call a good game. The whole game is bad from before you even start because the offense is just terribly designed. And I don't know how they don't see it. It's Pittsburgh Steelers. It's what they do. Power fucking run offense. Just do that. Najee Harris getting 12 carries a game helps nobody. It fucking is the most useless shit. He is a body puncher. In boxing, when you body punch, you don't just come in and just boom, boom, 2 punches and then you're done. And you just fucking try to home run, go to the face the rest. No. If you're going to work the body, you have to know that you're going to take your lumps, you're going to work them against the ropes and in the corner, and you got to work that body over and over and over and over until they're tired, until they're giving up, until they're panting. And Najee is the perfect battering ram type running back. With the stiff, let him loose. Again, power offense with the stiff arms, with the violent running. Let him get a little closer to the line of scrimmage. Oh my God, it is so incredibly frustrating to watch them run this offense. And the whole thing about the run game that I'm talking about is it sets up the play action, which is way easier for your young quarterback to run, or even if it happens to be Mitchell Trubisky there, like it's just easier for them to run simple play action stuff from under center instead of having to again have them lead this whole weird bullshit offense out of fucking shotgun 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I'm so fucking tired of it. Anyways, that's my lamentation of the Steelers offense. But I drafted Najee Harris specifically very heavily. Pat Freiermuth was another one. I thought he could be a breakout tight end. That has not happened. So I am holding a massive, massive L when it comes to this Steelers offense. I expected them to take a step forward. I expected Kenny Pickett to, positively regress to being just an average quarterback. Again, 20 touchdowns. That's what I had said. 20, 25 touchdowns. It's not like I was saying he was going to throw 40. 20 fucking touchdowns. And honestly, even that looks like a chore right now. So the fact that it looks like a chore for your quarterback to throw 25 passes in 2023, not a soul should be arguing for this man to stay as offensive coordinator. And honestly, I'm at the point where it's like the Steelers have always kind of been this slow-moving organization, and I've dealt with it for so long. And my fandom comes from, my family. My dad's a Steelers fan, has been a Steelers fan his whole life. I've been a Steelers fan my whole life. If they keep Matt Canada next year, I honestly, not that I'm going to just like drop my fan, but I'm probably just going to take a year off. I'm not going to think about the Steelers. I'm not going to draft any Steelers for my fantasy teams. I'm not going to worry about the Steelers. I'm just going to pretend they don't exist next year if they keep Matt Canada around, because I just can't do it anymore. They need to get rid of Matt Canada like fucking yesterday. All right. The other offense that's just been kind of terrible, but this one I more expected. And so I'm putting it for now in the category of I was wrong, in the sense of redraft this year in my relatively low expectations for this year, which was for the Green Bay Packers. So I didn't expect them to just like win a bunch of games or anything, but Jordan Love, as much as I think he is a good NFL quarterback, do I think he's great, elite, Aaron Rodgers? No, I said good. I said good for a reason. I think one thing that gets carried away is this, ability to disconnect from players and just be like, oh, they're trash, they're garbage, they're awful. And I get it. Like, I understand that most people, whether they acknowledge it verbally or not, they are inherently talking about as compared to their colleagues, right? They're talking about compared to other football players. But it gets lost in the sauce, I feel like, that these are 1%ers in terms of elite level human athletes. And that's something I feel like, that's why they are revered the way they are. That's why sports exists in the construct and vacuum and culture that it does. And so, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, Jordan Love is a good quarterback. He's not Nathan Peterman, but no, I don't think he's Patrick Mahomes either. Now, I always thought that the Packers offense was going to have growing pains because the entire wide receiving core is either sophomore or younger, meaning, they have been playing for 1 year or they're rookies. The tight ends are rookies. AJ Dillon has only been playing for 2 years. I think he's going into his third season. The only real veteran player on the offense in terms of skill players was Aaron Jones, who's been struggling with injuries basically through the entire season. And the offensive line has struggled to stay healthy. It's been a bit patchwork. So you combine all of those factors, and I think it's only natural that Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers offense would struggle. And so, of course, now you've got people on Twitter acting like, oh, Jordan Love's a bust and they should move on. They should get another quarter. I really doubt that the Packers are going to move on next year. And I would bet that if they surround Jordan Love with better talent, that he will do better next year. And when I say better talent, I'm talking about, improving the offensive line, maybe going after a veteran wide receiver to pair with your young trio of Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed. Maybe going after a veteran tight end again to help along Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. So just, going and getting kind of glue pieces, not even necessarily, the type of huge free agent splash signings that I think fans and fantasy fans especially are always looking for. But just kind of replacing, they lost Mercedes Lewis, they lost Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb and all these veterans that provide, stewardship and an example, whether or not the players are actually taking rookies under their wing, which a lot do. And I think we've seen it with Aaron Rodgers, where he is secured himself in a way that he is willing very much to coach up the quarterbacks around him. So we saw that on Hard Knocks with Zach Wilson. And I think we saw that even with Jordan Love. And part of that, I think, is based on his own experience with Brett Favre and how he kind of wanted to turn that around into a little bit of a different thing. So, again, Jordan Love is a good quarterback. He'll be around for at least a couple years, in my opinion, because it's what the Packers do. And if you're a Packers fan, I mean, if you were expecting a winning season and a playoff run this year, I think that would have been incredibly high hopes, and I would have told you to temper expectations. Aaron Rodgers in 2008 was 6-10, and he had great stats. He showed that he was elite through QB metrics, and Jordan Love hasn't quite done that yet, but he's had good games. So I know it's hard, again, in this culture, climate, time, and place to be patient. But in the famous words of one Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. And now we'll get into what I got right.
Not the kind of person to say I told her so, but you know what? I told her so. I told her so.
So the Cardinals-Ravens game turned into like a wonky thing, and even though it ended up like kind of higher scoring, it was all Gus Bus. And I just kind of saw that coming. People were saying, "Oh, Ravens are going to trounce the Cardinals." Is like, that's not how the NFL works. When these bullshit teams always like put up a fight, especially at home. So I still had the Ravens winning the game. I just, again, didn't have them like completely walking over them. AJ fucking Brown has set NFL record for most games in a row with 125 plus yards. He has been an absolute fucking monster this season, and I am tickled. Even though I had to face him in my main league, and it's a big reason I'm losing, he's one of my most drafted wide receivers this year. I pounded the table for him as a first round pick, especially if you were picking kind of in that back end of the first round. So, you know, you were missing out on the CMC and Tyreek. I literally was saying if Jalen Hurts is expected to make a leap as a passer, why would AJ Brown not be a beneficiary of that? He's basically uncoverable, and we've seen it this season. He has absolutely fucking dominated. So all the teams I have AJ Brown are the ones doing really well, and unfortunately, the ones I don't have AJ Brown tend to be the ones not doing as well. The Falcons offense was another one. Some of my earliest videos going all the way back to episode 1 of what was back then Friday Fun Day. It's now Thursday Thriller. Is Bijan Robinson a bust? And even though he had a touchdown, it was 11 for 62 and a touch, no receptions. Arthur Smith just hates us. And this was always my lamentation, though, of, you know, Bijan and also Kyle Pitts, who we'll get to after. I always said that Arthur Smith's offense was designed in such a way that, yes, it would benefit Bijan if he were to get 100% of the touches, but I didn't see that happening because it's Arthur Smith. I always thought that Tyler Algier, and even I had mentioned Cordarrelle Patterson was still hanging around and could get involved and then could turn into an ugly three-way split, and that if Bijan Robinson ended with Najee Harris's rookie numbers of like basically like 1,000 yards all purpose and 7-8 touchdowns maybe, that it would feel disappointing if you drafted him in the first round. If he had been kind of like a normal rookie ADP pay of, you know, 3rd to 5th round, kind of in the same range as like a Jahmyr Gibbs, for example, then, you know, it would be a little easier to swallow. But if you drafted him in the first round, especially if you were like one of these, and it didn't happen in my leagues, but I know there were definitely some leagues out there. If you drafted him over CMC, you are hating yourself. Even Austin Eckler, who's been injured last night, Austin Eckler showed out. If Austin Eckler starts doing that for the rest of the season, again, if you picked Bijan and you were picking him in that range, like you had to take him in the first round, you know, and it was more the wide receivers. Like I would have much rather had AJ Brown, even like, you know, it's kind of revisionist history to say CeeDee Lamb, but it was obvious that CD was going to get all the targets in Dallas, even though I wasn't too hot to trot on the whole offense. I kind of had CD as like the outlier for that. So just the whole Falcons offense. And then that kind of brings us right into the Cowboys offense, and more specifically, the run game has dried up as I had predicted. Tony Pollard was getting it done with volume originally, but now he's struggling, and it's because, again, this inside zone run scheme that Schottenheimer and McCarthy run is awful. If they're not front running with the defense and working with short fields, even Dak has had his struggles. He had an ugly interception in this one. Yes, he ended up as having like a really good fantasy game, and he had the 4 touchdowns. I get it. This game was on easy mode for the Cowboys, and it was because of their defense. DeAndre Hopkins, I didn't think he was going to like break out and have this like crazy monster game or anything, but I did have him getting better as the on the back half of the season. Even though he's a veteran, usually you would expect him to kind of struggle down the half. I was actually thinking that with the schedule lightening up for Derrick Henry, that it would also be lightening up for DeAndre Hopkins. And, I didn't expect the connection with Will Levis to look like that. But I had trade offers in trying to get DeAndre Hopkins. Unfortunately, they were not successful. And they were not successful only in the sense that they were not answered. And then when the game happened, obviously, I just pulled those trade offers because they didn't make sense after the game. They made sense before the game when I was, betting on expectations for the rest of the season. But yeah, once someone has like a monster 3-touchdown game like that, kind of hard to trade for them. Jets, Giants, defensive streamers. Those were two of my defensive streamers that I had suggested. Saints, Colts, weird shootout. I kind of predicted that. That would be a little bit of a higher scoring game, and then I would tap the over on that. And then Adam Thielen renaissance continues. He continues to lead the team in targets, yards. It's crazy. He is the wide receiver 1 for the team. He's a top 10 fantasy wide receiver on the year. I never predicted that. But I said that Adam Thielen was a absolute must draft in the later double-digit rounds of your fantasy football drafts, because I did expect him to have starter value as like a wide receiver 3 flex option, because he was so quintessential on first down plays, meaning like when they're trying to get the first down, and red zone. So I really thought Adam Thielen was going to have a nice season. I had it more along the lines of 808, but he is wildly outperforming expectations. He's easily on pace to crack 1,000 yards. So he's just having a monster renaissance year. And if you're a dynasty owner, make sure you trade him in this offseason, because I do not expect this to continue for, into further years. And now we get into what's become my favorite segment on the show. Who scored more than Kyle Pitts this week?
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are.
So we got a long list this week. Taysom Hill, David Njoku, Cole Kmet, Logan Thomas, Jake Ferguson, Donald Parham, Andrew Ogletree, who is 0% owned on Yahoo, Tyler Higbee, Cade Otton, Tommy Tremble, Connie Hayward, technically a fullback, and the brother of Cameron Hayward. Finally, in full PPR, Chig Okonkwo, and in standard scoring, Andrew fucking Beck has RB and tight end eligibility on Yahoo. He is also 0% owned. Eat shit, Arthur Smith. Now we get into the hearts and farts, aka my studs and duds, and then we're gonna get on out of here because I need to wake my kid up and get her ready for school. So we'll get into it right now. So I'm just going to smash through this pretty quickly here. For the hearts, we got Sam Howell. Ow! Will Levis, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert, and Joshua Dobbs with the sneaky 3-touchdown game. There were a couple others. It was a good week for quarterbacks. So if you sucked at quarterback, it was especially noticeable. For the running backs, the Gus Bus, beep, beep. Gus Bus came in with a 3-touchdown game, had a monster day. CMC continues to, do CMC things. Travis Etienne just keeps on rocking it. Alvin Kamara turned back into Super Camario. Breece Hall. That one should have been in the I was wrong list. I kind of have Breece Hall as a fade down the stretch, but it seems like this they're going to lean on him more and more. So he's definitely a hold. Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Javonte Williams. Again, Javonte Williams had him as an early fade, but he is now starting to creep into the 20-touch territory. He is definitely a start rest of season, in my opinion. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry got it done by pure volume, just barely cracked 100 yards. The Bijan Robinson sighting, he had 11 for 62 and a touch, like I mentioned. Zach Moss, DeAndre Swift, and Kareem Hunt were part of the I Scored a Touchdown club. And even Jonathan Taylor Thomas looked good. He had 12 for 95. So if you are a Zach Moss owner, now would definitely be the time to trade him because he still had a good game. But JT is definitely creeping up on him. For wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb broke fantasy football, and then DeAndre Hopkins and A.J. Brown said, hold my beer. Tyreek and Waddle both had great games. Rashid Shaheed caught a bunch of deep balls. Jamar Chase does Jamar Chase things. Excuse me. Jahan Dotson resurged from the death of fantasy managers' minds. Gabe Davis, throwback to the Thursday, had a good game. Mike Evans also caught a touchdown. And Chris Godwin was good that game too. Jamison fucking Crowder in 2023 out of nowhere had a great game. Tyler Lockett, Jordan Addison continues the breakout in the absence of Justin Jefferson. We'll see how that works out when JJ comes back. And now, unfortunately, without Kirk Cousins, this whole offense could be shot. We also saw KJ Osborne got 8 for 99. You can forget that if Kirk's out. I don't know what they're going to do. Pittman, McLaurin, both scored a touchdown. Decent games. Garrett Wilson, Deontay Johnson got it done through PPR. Trey fucking McBride. Here comes the McBride. Crushed it. Absolutely killed it. Tight end 1 on the week. Taysom Hill continues to Madden fantasy managers with his quarterback, running back, tight end eligibility. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. George Kittle, PPR maven this week, all of a sudden. TJ Hawkinson had another good game. David Njoku, again, taking a break from terrorizing Gotham to go and catch some footballs. Cole Kmet had a good PPR game. Dalton Kincaid, we saw that on Thursday. Evan Ingram, just again, continues to be quietly a PPR maven. Not getting a lot of touchdowns, but just every week for the tight end position, quality 8 to 15 points. And in full PPR leagues with tight end premium, even more. Logan Thomas was one of my tight end streamers. He hit, and Jake Ferguson also had a great game. On defense, the Denver Broncos, of course, everyone, of course, had Denver Broncos defense against Kansas City Chiefs. Am I right? No. It's funny because I did think about it because of the weather game where they were talking about like, oh, there's going to be snow on the field, but then I had seen reports where it's like, oh, it won't be that bad. So I kind of faded that, but I did think it would be like a funny play to go Denver Broncos against the Chiefs, but I wasn't that ballsy. Dallas Cowboys defense might be the fantasy MVP by the end of the year, honestly. Like if they put in top 5 performances every week like this, like, you know, in more than 10 of the weeks, like that is such a massive advantage for fantasy football in leagues that have defensive scoring, especially some tilt the defensive scoring even more. Like Dallas Cowboys have been just absolutely outrageous this year. The Vikings, Giants, and Jaguars round out the list, and now we can just get into the farts.
Shots, explosives.
So Lamar Jackson, even though they won the game, scored 30 points, didn't matter. It was all Gus Bus. Patrick Mahomes, a rare bad Patrick Mahomes game. I think it was reported too that he had the flu, and so apparently he's not Michael Jordan. CJ Stroud, that one hurt me in a couple places. Desmond Ridder got benched. Kenny Pickett got injured, and Tyson Bagent came back down to earth. Turns out he is, you know, a walk-on quarterback like we all thought. Najee fucking Harris, that one just really, that hurts my soul, honestly.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Ken Walker had kind of a mid game, and keep an eye on Zach Charbonnet, who looked really good. Didn't get a lot of work. Didn't pop up on the fantasy radar in terms of like hearts or anything. But just again, keep an eye on the usage and how that workload gets split. If Walker's dealing with any kind of injuries or anything, Charbonnet looked good. AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones continue their struggles. Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders completely disappeared. I only had him in one league, but it was just absolutely atrocious. Chuba Hubbard got a lot of the work, but it was not good. Isaiah Pacheco, Damian Pierce, and Devin Singletary, Deonta Foreman, Alex Madison, even Zeke and Ramondre. Just lots and lots of struggles across the board for the running backs, which it's kind of been that way all year. So if you have a good running back, you just hold on for dear life and pray to the fantasy gods not to take them away. For wide receiver, Chris Olave, DJ Moore, Rashee Rice, George Pickens, even though he caught the touchdown, is 1 for 22 and a touch. So not a huge fantasy day. Christian Kirk, that one hurt me again too. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua both struggled again. Nico Collins didn't have a monster day. Zay Flowers was one that was surprising. He had like 5 for 17 yards or something gross. Tank Dell, disappearing act. Christian Watson. Really has not been a good season for Christian Watson. Granted, he was injured and now he's working his way back from the injury, and we'll see again if patience serves out and if he's able to have a better back half of the season. But, you know, this first half of the season, Christian Watson has absolutely been a fantasy bust. No question about it. And that one is one that I have to own as a big ol' L. It was in the I got wrong Packers offense. I heavily drafted Christian Watson and Jordan Love for that matter as like more of a backup quarterback in super flex leagues. But yeah, Christian Watson, that one is hurting a lot this year. Curtis Samuel, again, when he's relegated, that's when you can keep an eye on Jahan Dotson maybe having an increased role. And Josh Palmer, you know, if it's not Keenan Allen, honestly, at this point, even though Quentin Johnston had like 5 for 50 and kind of started to get a little work. And, you know, Josh Palmer, unfortunately, I think he got injured, banged his knee or something. But he played through. He might have played through. I didn't actually get to recap that whole game yet. But just in general, like that offense essentially runs through Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. And, you know, you're taking pot shots on the other guys. So there's probably safer options out there. He didn't make it into the hearts list, for example, but Josh Downs was one. He had like 7 for 79 or something like that. So he was a decent play in PPR leagues. And, you know, is someone that I think is still available. Tight end. Travis Kelce is so good that 6 for 58 feels like a bad game from Travis Kelce. So that was funny. Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith, they both busted. Dallas Goedert had a mid game. Hunter Henry, I had seen that kind of floating out. He was one of my early tight end streams on the year, but I've since faded that. And I saw it kind of pop up for the Miami game, and I wasn't that into it. And he busted. And Dalton Schultz, this one I kind of was into as a streaming option, you know, tight end 2 option. But again, just that whole game for Houston and Carolina, where I was expecting it to be more higher scoring, kind of got a little wonky on us and turned into like a weird defensive matchup. And perfect segue into the defenses that stunk. Colts, and then the big boys, 49ers, Eagles, Bills, and Ravens, all under 10 points for fantasy, at least in the league that I checked. So that's it for me. Normally I would stick some waivers here at the back end, but I'm going to wrap this show early again. Got some real life stuff that I got to deal with. But also I'm just going to do the waivers for this week as a separate little smaller video. See if I can't hit some algorithmic shit with that. Speaking of the algorithm, if you've made it this far into the video and if you've enjoyed any part of it, please like and subscribe. Super kick that bell, get notified for when we drop episodes. The real important ones to me, like I always say, Wildcard Wednesday is the one where I get to interview other content creators and just talk about general life and do like funny little comedy interviews. But then also, you know, I work in some like real subjects and topics. I like to touch on mental health awareness a lot. So we do talk about like real stuff too. But I also like to keep it light and fun. And so we get into a lot of funny hypotheticals and stuff. Shout out to my favorite author, Chuck Klosterman, where I draw a lot of the questions from. So yeah, it's just a really fun show. It's now available also on Spotify. It's on YouTube and Spotify. So please go check that out. Drop us a review on Spotify. And then next fantasy show coming at you, besides the small waiver one that I'll do, will be Thursday Thriller, where we always run through all of the weekly games. I think this is going into a bipocalypse of 6 weeks. 6 teams on a bye week. So you'll definitely want to check out the Thursday show to see who you should be starting, who you should be fading. And then, of course, the Sunday live streams, those are starting to pick up steam and starting to be a lot of fun. They're quickly turning into my second favorite behind the Wildcard Wednesdays. So really much enjoying a lot of these episodes that I'm doing. Really starting to build a small community, which is exactly what I wanted. You know, and I also want to shout out my guy, Aaron St. Denis, that at FF Mad Scientist. Make sure that you go check him out. He is doing a thing now with Luke Sawhook, and they're like partnered with Des Bryant for like some really cool fantasy stuff coming around the corner, where they're going to be working with all 32 teams. You know, that's the kind of stuff that as an outsider looking in, I think it's cool as shit, but it's not something that me personally, I feel like I can get involved in, like with my life, you know, where I live in Canada, just, you know, what I'm trying to do with my channel and, you know, just kind of like, again, what I'm going through in my personal life with having just gotten married and just going through a lot of different changes and stuff. For me, it wasn't really like, it's not in the cards right now, and it won't be for a long time. So if you are here and you're, you know, getting in on the ground floor of this community, you don't have to worry. I'm not going anywhere. It's just us. So yeah, I would appreciate, of course, the support. Drop comments, drop ratings, reviews, likes, subscribes, all of that good shit. It helps so much more than you know, especially in these early days. You know, I've only been doing this for like a handful of months now. I started in the off season, but it was even late. I think it was like late May. So I think it's been like 4 months I've been doing this, maybe. It hasn't been that long, is what I'm saying. It's been less than half a year. And already I've got a lot of great responses. And I'm just having fun with it. That's my big thing, is I'm not trying to take on any like major responsibilities. So, you know, as much as and again, I'm sure I'm missing opportunities and money and this, that, and the other thing. And I honestly don't care about any of that because I'm an idiot. I have a full-time job that I super love. I'm a video game tester in my real life. I have a family that I love. So, you know, my life feels set in real life, and I get to do this as like a fun little bonus. And so I get to very much do it my way, you know, Frank Sinatra style. So, you know, whether that's for better or for worse, you know, I'm not, again, trying to take on other endeavors or responsibilities or even sponsors, you know, except, you know, I've got my affiliation with Shout out to Fantasy Football Advice Network. I love working with those guys. Tyler Bradley, me and him have like a personal relationship on the side as friends, through fantasy football. But also he plays in my fantasy hockey league, my fantasy basketball league now too. So just really running the gambit of the fantasy sports. So shout out to him and all the work he's doing with Fantasy Football Advice Network and all the creators over there. And just generally, shout out to all the content creators that you are about to see in the list of Joker. I'm a firm believer that like there's room at the table for everybody. So, there's tons and tons and tons of people doing amazing fucking work right now. So again, just to recap, shout out to Aaron, shout out to Luke, shout out to Dez, shout out to literally whatever I just said. Like it's early in the morning still, and I think it's time to wrap this up. So as always, we will finish it off with the list of Joker. There are no new names on the list, but I genuinely follow and enjoy all of these accounts, whether, again, it is for entertainment or analysis purposes. These are basically some of my favorite follows on Twitter. It's not a complete list. It probably never will be because I'll just keep working to find new and growing accounts that I want to add to the list. But I'm very much about the community aspect of fantasy football. For me, it's about fun and community. Like more than everything else, it's fun, community, and comedy. Like those are if I could have Jesus Christ, I'm way out of it right now. If I can't think, Triforce, Jesus. Zelda. It's like my favorite game of all time. If I could have a Triforce with the 3 triangles, those would be my triangles. So again, shout out to, all these content creators. Shout out to the ones I mentioned. Shout out to you, the listener, all you wild and weird listeners out there. And I will catch you guys on the flip side.
You just made the list! You just made the list! Oh my God. You just made the list! Just made the list! Those stupid soccer mom's hair! You just made the list!
Now, she's reporting her neighbor, who's ex-Catholic by her demand, and Larry's supposed to talk to. Well, she doesn't know what to do. She says we shop for him for Colleyville. Says she hates me ever since I arrived. Says I'm not allowed to go unheard. We got to a beach challenging in court. That I will not be an occupant of an assembly hall in her state. They're there to say that she's having fun. Not with yet they set up a policy. Let's leave her say she just moved in. And that she just, she don't want the challenge. Here we go. She plays with Pittsburgh Steelers. She wants no Bowling Green, Ohio. That's bad luck, but she wants someone else. Here we go. Here we go.